It is difficult to say anything new about Napoleon Bonaparte, either in reference to his genius, his character, or his deeds. His genius is universally admitted, both as a general and an administrator. No general so great has appeared in our modern times. He ranks with Alexander and Caesar in ancient times, and he is superior to Frederick the Great, Wellington, or any of the warriors who have figured in the great wars of Europe, from Charlemagne to the Battle of Waterloo. Without the advantages of birth or early patronage, he rose to the highest pinnacle of human glory. His victories were prodigious and unexampled, and it took all Europe to resist him. He aimed at nothing less than universal sovereignty, and had he not, when intoxicated with his conquests, attempted impossibilities, his power would have been practically unlimited in France. He had all the qualities for success in war: insight, fertility of resource, rapidity of movement, power of combination, coolness, intrepidity, audacity, boldness tempered by calculation, will, energy which was never relaxed, powers of endurance, and all the qualities which call out enthusiasm, and attach soldiers and followers to personal interests. His victorious career was unchecked until all the nations of Europe, in fear and wrath, combined against him. His genius for civil administration was equally remarkable, and is universally admitted. Even Metternich, who detested him, admits that he was as great as a statesman as he was as a warrior, and as great as an administrator as he was as a statesman. He brought order out of confusion, developed the industry of his country, restored the finances, made the whole machinery of government subservient to his aims, and even seemed to animate it by his individual will. He ruled France as by the power of destiny. We do not associate with military genius, as a general rule, marked intellectual qualities in other spheres. But Napoleon was an exception to this rule. He was tolerably well educated, and he possessed considerable critical powers in art, literature, and science. He could be eloquent and interesting in conversation. Nor are the judgments of mankind less unanimous in reference to his character than his intellect and genius. He stands out in history in a marked manner with two sides, great and little, good and bad. None can deny him many good qualities. His industry was marvelous, he was temperate in eating and drinking, he wasted no precious time, he rewarded his friends, to whom he was true, he did not persecute his enemies unless they stood in his way, and unless he had a strong personal dislike for them. He could be magnanimous at times, he was indulgent to his family, and allowed his wife to buy as many India shawls and diamonds as she pleased. He generally ruled by the laws he had accepted or enacted, he despised formalities and etiquette, he sought knowledge from every quarter, he encouraged merit in all departments, he was not ruled by women, like most of the kings of France. He was not enslaved by prejudices, and was lenient when he could afford to be, and in the earlier part of his career he was doubtless patriotic in his devotion to the interests of his country. Moreover, many of his faults were the result of circumstances, and of the unprecedented prosperity which he enjoyed. Pride, egotism, tyranny, and ostentation were to be expected of a man whose will was law. Nearly all men would have exhibited these traits, had they been seated on such a throne as his, and almost any man's temper would have occasionally given way under such burdens as he assumed, such hostilities as he encountered, and such treasons as he detected. Surrounded by spies and secret enemies, he was obliged to be reserved. But with all due allowance for the force of circumstances in the development of character, there were yet natural traits in Napoleon which call out the severest reprobation, and which make him an object of indignation and intense dislike among true-minded students of history. His egotism was almost superhuman, his selfishness was most unscrupulous, his ambition absolutely boundless. He claimed a monopoly in perfidy and lying, he had no idea of moral responsibility, he had no sympathy with misfortune, no conscience, no fear of God. He was cold, hard, ironical, and scornful. He committed great crimes in his ascent to supreme dominion, and mocked the reason, the conscience, and the rights of mankind. He broke the most solemn treaties, he recklessly insulted all the governments of Europe, he sought to aggrandize himself at any cost, and ruthlessly grasped the scepter of universal dominion as if he were an irresistible destiny whom it was folly to oppose. In all this he aimed to be greater than conscience. Such was the character of a despot who arose upon the ruins of the old monarchy, the product of a revolution, whose ideas he proposed to defend. Most historians, and all moralists, are on the whole unanimous in this verdict. As for his deeds, they rise up before our minds, compelling admiration and awe. He was the incarnation of force, he performed the most brilliant exploits of our modern times. The question then arises, whether his marvelous gifts and transcended opportunities were directed to the good of his country and the cause of civilization. In other words, did he render great services to France, which make us forget his faults? How will he be judged by enlightened posterity? It is the privilege of great sovereigns to be judged for their services rather than by their defects. This great man may yet say to us who seek to take his measure,
C'est pour mes services rendus à la France que je prétends être jugé.
It is for my services to France that I claim to be judged. I do not claim perfection. I admit I made grand mistakes. I even committed acts which the world stigmatizes as crimes. I seized powers which did not belong to me. I overthrew constitutions. I made myself supreme. I repudiated the ideas in the name of which I climbed to a throne. I was harsh, insolent, and tyrannical. These were my mistakes, crimes, if you please to call them, but it is not for these you must judge me. Did I not come to the rescue of law and order when France was torn with anarchies? Did I not deliver the constituted authorities from the mob? Did I not rescue France from foreign enemies when they sought to repress the revolution and restore the Bourbons? Did I not elevate France, and give scope to its enterprise, and develop its resources, and inspire its citizens with an unknown enthusiasm, and make the country glorious, so that even my enemies came to my court to wonder and applaud? And did I not leave such an immortal prestige, even when I was disarmed and overthrown by the armies of combined Christendom, that my illustrious name, indelibly engraved in the hearts of my countrymen, was enough to seat my nephew on the throne from which I was torn, and give to his reign a glory scarcely inferior to my own? These were my services to France, the return of centralized power amid anarchies and discontents and laws which successive revolutions have not destroyed, but which shall blaze in wisdom through successive generations.